Here we go. Is this thing on? Tap, tap, tap. Here we go. We're getting ready to go live on the air for the first time, a simulcast of the Robert Scott Bell Show on video through Google Hangouts and what is that thing called? YouTube. If they don't censor us, we'll find out. Super Don, you tell me if this is working, and we'll go for it when you're connected, because I know you're not connected to me yet. But we'll get this going. Just so you know, tonight we do a little bit more of a political, I don't say a theater, but political healing, I'd like to think. We've got Norm Singleton from the Campaign for Liberty. We've got Cheryl Chumley from the Washington Times. And we've got Jonathan Emord, the FDA Dragon Slayer. Each and every week, we get together and do the Sacred Fire of Liberty Hour on the Robert Scott Bell Show. So that's the word. When you watch this later, you'll see what I'm talking about. All right, let's do a test. Let's see. Always love playing this in the show, but with the FDA Dragon Slayer on, we don't often play this. We should, but here it goes.
In the early 1900s, a government agency was formed to protect the public from unsafe food and drugs. Since then, it has become corrupt and now protects the health of the industry over the safety of the public. Today, working with the government, they survive as soldiers of pharmaceutical fortune. If you love freedom, if you sell organic food or natural medicines, and if they find you, you might get a visit from the FDA team.
This is just prep time, just getting ready for the show. Those of you who are now on, we apparently have audio. We've solved the problem. So for the first time ever, we'll be going live simulcast on the show tonight. Jonathan Emord scheduled to join me, along with Cheryl Chumley and Norm Singleton, first hour. Super Don will be here sometime. We connect with GCN at the top of the hour, and then we'll start the prep in earnest to get ready to go live on the air. You're getting the backstage pass here. I don't know if this is interesting to you, but I talked to Super Don. He's probably going to get on me about it in the second hour of the show, because I'm just like, I don't know whether to be nervous or I'm just not used to having anybody in studio with me, unless I know I've got a studio guest. But for the most part, you're in the studio with me now. It's kind of crazy. So let's see what kind of political discussion. We've got some good blog posts from the Campaign for Liberty tonight. Congress returns. See, I have, this is the show clock. You see, I have it done just like a clock, so I have a visual of where I am, because we Gen Xers were before the age of real heavy digital clocks, so we actually had analog clocks. We talked about analogs yesterday on the show. Let's see, sanctions. Congress returns. Sanctions could affect free speech. On Russia. Free speech. And then we have Jeff Sessions endorses theft. We're probably going to talk about the Kim Jong-un. Did you all ever see, what was that show? Team America World Police? Don't do it if you're faint of heart. But I kind of think that guy is a puppet. In fact, we may talk about that on the air. So we get about a little less than 2 minutes before we go live. So let's see what I'm going to take today. Oh, yeah, here we go. A little bit of Sovereign Silver. That's the 1 ounce spray, so we can keep the throat clear. What else can we do? Oh, this is cool. What is this? Had a thing on my arm. Oh, you can't see this, but you know, some people like essential oils. I like essential oils too, but I used it on my arm. You can use it topically or internally, depending on the quality. I know you all want to do more on essential oils, so we will probably do some more shows on that with show and tell. You actually have some things you can see. Let's see what other audio clips, if anything, Super Don has prepared for me tonight. Y'all can't see the screen I'm looking at, so if I'm looking up, you're like, oh yeah, he looks pretty old when he looks up, but what can I do? Let's see here. Today's audio. No, that's themes. Today's audio. There we go. College syllabus, hour 1, segment 1, crossfade. Oh, no, this is from yesterday, I think. What did we do in the opening yesterday? It was this, wasn't it?
And it's the opposite of what we've heard before, but eating too little salt could increase your risk of having a heart attack. A new study finds regardless of whether people have high blood pressure, low salt intake is linked to a greater chance of heart attack and stroke.
So yesterday we opened with the salt story, crazy story of a guy who actually dared to go back to the original science. And guess what he found? Well, it was like that high salt thing causing high blood pressure only affected maybe 20% of the people, a very narrow band of folks. And they, of course, applied it to 100% of the people. Great. Medical collectivism, nutritional collectivism is awesome, isn't it? Not. We try to get beyond that. All right, I'm going to connect to GCN here through my...
Part of official surveillance by the Cuban government, but the U.S. has responded by expelling 2 Cuban diplomats. The problems began last fall when several American diplomats reported unexplained hearing loss. The problem's now been traced to some sort of sonic device in or near their homes that operates outside the range of human hearing. The Cuban government has denied knowing anything about it.
Correspondent Wally Hines reporting. Canada has also reported at least one diplomat of theirs stationed in Havana has also been treated for hearing loss. President Trump reiterated to North Korea today that the U.S. will not tolerate continued belligerent behavior from them. President Trump says he isn't issuing idle threats.
It's not a dare.
We
It's a
get on
statement.
the air just like
Has nothing to do with dare.
So
That's a statement. He's not going to go around threatening Guam, and he's not going to threaten the United States, and he's not going to threaten Japan, and he's not going to threaten South Korea. No, that's not a dare, as you say. That is a statement of fact.
Mr. Trump also took aim at Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell today, saying McConnell should step down if he can't muscle health care and other legislation through the Senate. His message to McConnell was simple.
Get to work and let's get it done. They should have had this last one done. They lost by 1 vote.
on the board.
For a thing like that to happen is a disgrace.
Mr. Trump said he also wants passage of measures revamping the tax code and pumping billions into infrastructure programs, 2 of his top remaining priorities. Mr. Trump's been sniping at McConnell for several days on Twitter, a reaction to McConnell's earlier remarks. The president was new to Washington and doesn't realize how difficult it is to pass legislation. Wall Street down by 205 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
If they find you, you might get a visit from
Mike Gallagher here for Relief Factor. You might be asking, who should consider ordering Relief Factor? Well, anyone with pain is keeping them from doing things that bring joy to their life. Maybe taking a long walk, not having the pain, riding a bike, playing golf again without pain, opening a jar or sewing or using a hammer, even rolling out of bed every morning without pain. For me, I had hip replacement, and then I had a little bit of a scooter accident in New York, left me miserable, aches and pains until I started taking Relief Factor. Heard about them on the radio. I started to take Relief Factor, a packet in the morning, a packet in the evening. You know what?
Right,
I was
Jonathan,
completely pain-free. I want to prove it to you by you taking the 3-week quick start from Relief Factor. It's only $19.95. Do you know 80% of those who take the quick start order again? We know it works. So if your pain isn't worth the price of a cup of coffee a day to lower, then you're not in much pain. If it is worth it, try the 3-week quick start. ReliefFactor.com, ReliefFactor.com, or call 800-500-8384, Relief Factor.
And do a show.
Former Missouri Senator Jim Talent tells the Salem Radio Network the failure to repeal and replace Obamacare in the U.S. Senate should not have come as a complete surprise.
They had focused on passing the alternatives. In other words, the replace part before the repeal part. I think we would have had a very different debate.
Talent, a senior fellow at the Bipartisan Policy Center, spoke to the Salem Radio Network. Said it's not productive for President Trump to criticize Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell for failing to repeal Obamacare.
It's wrong to single out him. I agree with that, and I don't know what it accomplishes.
Talent says he believes the Senate would have been more successful if it had focused on replace first rather than repeal of Obamacare. Krispy Kreme's going dark ahead of the solar eclipse set to cast a shadow across part of the U.S. this month. The donut chain is giving its signature glazed treats a chocolate sheen for the first time ever in honor of the August 21st eclipse.
So that's important.
News and analysis at townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters.
2 minutes to airtime. 2 minutes to airtime. GCN cut traffic.
Dutch and Belgian authorities are carrying out raids on properties in connection with an investigation into the presence of a potentially harmful insecticide in eggs.
The raids were conducted at locations in both countries linked to a company that allegedly used the pesticide, as well as suspected suppliers of the chemical, which is banned for use in the food chain. The Netherlands is one of the largest exporters of eggs in the world. Belgian ministers have accused the Dutch of taking too long to share information about the potential contamination. The Dutch Food Safety Board has admitted it received a tip-off last year, but failed to investigate.
BBC correspondent Anna Holligan reporting. Credit Suisse is banning the trading and use of Venezuelan bonds as the political crisis in the South American country escalates. The bank will not trade nor accept as collateral two specific types of Venezuelan securities, as well as any bonds the country issued from June 1st going forward. More on these stories at townhall.com.
It's been said, any society is only 3 missed meals away from chaos. Those times may be near. Think about it. Our country faces multiple terrorist threats and aggressions from Russia and North Korea. Social unrest and violent marches yet again may lead to looting of stores and city shutdowns. And our crumbling infrastructure leaves our power grid vulnerable to long-term outages from a single cyber attack. When the chaos from any one of these threats arises, the government knows it can't provide during a widespread national emergency. That's why you need your own plan for self-reliance. That's where My Patriot Supply comes in. Get a 4-week survival food supply for only $99. That includes breakfast, lunches, and dinners. Order online at preparewithgcn.com. $99 for 4 weeks of survival food that tastes like homemade cooking and lasts up to 25 years from My Patriot Supply. Get your kits today at preparewithgcn.com. Free shipping is included. Preparewithgcn.com.
But no worries. The show must go on. Here we go. Y'all ready? Live, 2 hours coming up. You'll see behind the scenes in between the breaks as well. I'll be able to talk to you and everybody else. Ready?
You are listening to the Robert Scott Bell Show.
In a world where freedom is threatened, where individual rights are eroding, one man stands poised to counteract the rise of tyranny by rekindling the sacred fire of liberty. That man is Jonathan Emord.
Liberty was the patriotic purpose of our written Constitution.
Government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
The only solution is not in the hands of the government.
Give me liberty or give me death.
Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, the FDA Dragon Slayer, Jonathan Emord.
All right, it's an auspicious day on the Robert Scott Bell Show. First hour every week at this time. We do the Sacred Fire of Liberty Hour with Jonathan Emord. He is the FDA Dragon Slayer, standing up for liberty in the place where I don't dare to tread very often unless Jonathan invites me. How are you, my friend?
Just fine, Robert. How are you doing?
Doing well. You know, this is another interesting night, too. Super Don has insisted we have to do a live video simulcast of this show. So we actually have an in-camera studio running live through our YouTube channel at RSBell or RSBell Media channel on YouTube. So we've got a video feed and an audio feed. So I don't know. I actually had to shave today.
Well, that's about time, Robert.
You know, the scruffy hippie that I usually am. So what do we got Cheryl Chumley joining us from the Washington Times. Cheryl, you with us?
I am.
Oh, welcome, welcome. Now, you know that saying, with friends like these, who needs enemies? And I'm thinking Donald Trump has got to be thinking that about his fellow Republicans. I'm just looking at the way they are supporting him and helping to move the agenda forward. He's tweeting out to Mitch McConnell. It's like, dude, what are you doing there? I mean, you can't even put this thing forward you've been saying you would do for 7 years, like the Obamacare issue, much less the tax reform issue. So, Jonathan, just because they're all Republicans doesn't mean they like one another.
No, and it also doesn't mean that they have principles that stand for limited government, free enterprise, and a strong national defense. We have a peculiar situation where Republicans since the Bush years have abandoned the Reagan mantle and have compromised away their principles in a strange effort to try to placate the opposition. And that's not leadership, that's really cowardice. And that's what Donald Trump is confronting. He's confronting the reality that he cannot rely upon Republicans to be Republican. He cannot rely upon these Republicans to stand up for the principles that they were elected upon. And that's really what we have a crisis here, both with the health care issue and with tax reduction. They can't seem to get their act together in the House and in the Senate to carry a very simple free market proposal to fruition. All they have to do is dismantle Obamacare. They just have to get rid of the statute.
Mm-hmm.
And they won't do that. It's just appalling. They promise this over and over again.
Yeah.
And here they have the opportunity to deliver, and they're not doing it.
Well, Jonathan, this is technically a health show, and we always talk about the health of the body politic with you and with Cheryl Chumley. And I look at the health of the Republican Party, much less the Democrats. I've lost them long ago. But we have a constitutional deficiency disease or syndrome that has basically infested and infected both major political parties, with a couple of exceptions here and there. And Cheryl, you've been observing this for quite a while. I'm sure you're not bothered by this at all.
Yeah, not at all. It's very disheartening. It's dismaying to see all the Republicans that you had such great hope in over the last few years, because they kept promising, once we have a clean sweep of the House, the Senate, and the White House, we can pass everything that we've promised you for years, guys. And now it's quite dismaying to see that it's all crumbling. And, it's really bothersome as a political watcher. If you're listening to news, if you're reading headlines, and day after day, it's the next Republican leadership coming out with the newest excuse why they couldn't accomplish something. And the latest being the very condescending Mitch McConnell's finger wagging at President Donald Trump, acting as if he doesn't have a clue how things inside Washington work. Well, I think most Americans are just as confused why certain promises made over the last 7 years have not culminated in any type of action. And I don't think that's a failure to understand how Washington works. I think that's a frustrating eye-opening and recognition of how Washington, indeed does work. And it seems politicians put their own priorities before the people.
Yeah. Hey, Cheryl, by the way, I'm the only one that gets to come up with new words here. I love what you just came up with, culminized. And I have to point that out because...
Yeah, I know.
But no, it's a great word. That's the beauty of the English language. We can do that, and it's still understood. Jonathan, could you get away with
like
that?
I'm afraid those things do pass by in court without even being noticed.
Yeah. No, the thing is, even the idea of republicanism, right? Having a Republican form of government. We talk about the form of government that we were bestowed, if you will, by the founding fathers. It was a Republican form of government. Even saying we're a constitutional republic doesn't mean or doesn't say enough, because there were republics before us. You've read in history, but the Republican form of government is unique because it rested sovereignty with the people, not the government, not the king, not the queen, not an emperor. But we've strayed so far from that even political pundits that seemingly have pretty decent constitutional basis for a lot that they go out with in the media and other places don't have a conception of that, because they still ask permission of government to do so many things that it really isn't or shouldn't be required.
Well, the founding fathers told us that they feared for our republic, that it wouldn't last that long. One of the greatest fears that they had was of unlimited government, that the political machinations of people in office would lead them, who would be inherently evil, to expand their own power, even at the expense of individual rights and at the expense of the limitations they put into the Constitution. Those very things have happened, so that now you have politicians, virtually every member of Congress, who has not one but two political action committees, one under the Federal Election Commission Act, which is regulated, and then the other, which is not for specific campaign purposes, that's entirely unregulated, but into which they expect, if you want something to get done in Washington, that you dump a large sum of money, and then they pocket it, or they use it for their own personal expenses or to put their family members on the payroll. There's a great book by Peter Schweitzer called Extortion, which explains, he's a fellow at the Hoover Institute, that explains this whole corrupt system. So when you have government for sale, Robert, when you have our government for sale, and you have politicians who are so corrupt that they'd rather line their own pockets and work deals for their own political aggrandizement over the interests of the country, you end up with this morass where Democrats and Republicans kind of merge together in a sea of corruption. And you have some outsiders like Donald Trump who are totally flummoxed by virtue of the fact that, hey, you people promised you would do these things. I'm asking you to do them, and you won't do them. Why is that? Well, it's not just that they are somehow sort of bewildered by politics in Washington. It's because they're a part of this corrupt system. They don't really care whether the bill is passed. The most important thing for them, by and large, is their own self-interest, and that's better served, actually, by a thing like Obamacare. If you have a massive piece of government legislation that creates a huge bureaucracy, well, to get things done, you have to have connections. And that means that these people are in the driver's seat. So they're not in any great rush to change anything.
Well, Cheryl, are we learning anything? Is the political electorate learning anything by this? I think, we've toyed and talked about this. I've talked about it in talk radio for many years, that each time the promises are made, very rarely are the promises delivered. So what do we do next, Cheryl?
Well, I mean, you both know I've written a book filled with solutions, my recommendations, what citizens could do to hold their government accountable. But to answer your question, I fear that most people in America are as frustrated as you and I are. But I also worry that a lot of these people in America just look at politics as, well, we just need a new guy, a new face to come fix everything for us. And that is hardly the solution, because you have new faces in office all the time. You have a new face in the White House, but he's being completely stonewalled by the entrenched elite in his own party. And part of the reason I found looking at this past week, I was looking at some of the numbers on Centers for Responsive Politics, where they track money in politics. And, there's like a 90% chance of people who are seated already in Congress for them to be reelected. And that's because they share all their money. Their campaign excess dollars, they turn those over to the next candidate who looks vulnerable. Mm-hmm. So it's just one hand feeding the next. And, it's a very difficult thing, but people just have to keep up the fight and not look too much at polls in the media, which is mainstream, but go with their guts, go with what they think this country ought to be and fight for it.
And remember, folks, there are no political saviors, right? The idea is that if you are going to engage in the body politic, if you want to support people that are of principle, that could change things. I agree. But that is so rare to occur that when someone who has principles gets in there, they don't know what to do with it. They didn't know what to do with Ron Paul for all those years he was in there. And yet he has sparked a revolution, because an idea whose time has come, no standing army or a moving army can defeat it. And there are ideas that underlie the principle that which founded this country. Those of you listening from around the world, why do you like America? It's for those ideals, not necessarily for everything that's transpired. There's nothing that's perfect on this planet in that way. But my goodness, here with the Sacred Fire of Liberty, we're going to hold their feet to the fire, at least through talk radio, and of course with the great writing of Cheryl Chumley. And you can find her on the opinion pages there at WashingtonTimes.com, as well as CherylChumley.com, and her great books with more to come. And Jonathan Emord, Sacred Fire of Liberty. You can find his books at Emord, EMORD.com as well. We got lots of powerful healing coming, including more on the body politic with Cheryl and of course, Jonathan, and then Norm Singleton will join us from the Campaign for Liberty at the bottom of the hour. Stick with us. We'll be right back. And those of you watching on video, I'm still with you.
Who'd you say that masked man was?
It's a bird. It's a plane. It's
Robert Scott.
All right, guys, doing great considering what we're dealing with out there.
Yeah. Depressing watching sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, it can be a bummer. By the way, Cheryl, I don't know if you heard me talk to Jonathan about this. We are doing a live, for the first time, video simulcast of the show. And it's awesome. It's through YouTube. We have a channel, RSBell Media channel on YouTube. Eventually, this is kind of the first foray. There'll be probably opportunities in the future if you guys want, or we'll actually be able to integrate video from you as well. It's not critical. It's not necessary. But that means what we say on the breaks tonight, and I'm sorry I didn't give you advance warning, we'll be going out through YouTube. So, again, if we need to censor ourselves, not like we're usually cussing like sailors on the break anyway.
This is true. So it would be like through Skype or something that Jonathan and I would hook up? Or?
Yeah, possibly. We're working on some of those. It's a next level. I'm just kind of taking baby steps here. So right now, people are just seeing me in the studio, which I don't think is all that interesting, but Super Don insists, yeah, people think it's cool. So I put on a Metallica t-shirt just so Super Don would be impressed. And otherwise, we just roll with the content like we usually do.
All righty.
So I've got to quickly run out and grab some water, and I'll be right back. Super Don, if you're here, talk to them. If not, you and Cheryl talk about what we'll go into in the next segment, and everybody will be able to hear you, but I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. You guys want to hit the Kim Jong-un stuff, or what do you think for this next segment? Or the Sanctuary City one? Which one?
I'm good with that.
Yeah, it's probably a good idea to hit that one.
Okay. All right, well, let's target that first, and we'll see. Obviously, we only have about 5.5 or so minutes with Cheryl, so if you're good with that, we'll roll into that first, and then maybe we can tackle the what was the other story? The Sanctuary City, maybe with Norm. I think Super Don sent me a message and said the video quality wasn't awesome. And so I had to check my daughter, who's 12. She's like doing FaceTime through the internet with her friends. And I'm thinking her video is taking precedence over mine. But what do you got when you got a 12-year-old girl? That's going to happen. Jonathan, you're not there yet, but
close.
Yes, getting there. I know. They had a great time when we were up at the Halloween party together, though. The kids had a blast.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was a hoot.
It was amazing.
It's coming around again, Robert.
Right,
but here we go. Be there.
Here we go.
Taking on bureaucrats and corporations that would stand in the way of health freedom. Here's Robert.
For the first time ever, we're live simulcasting on YouTube. You can actually catch us off the air on the breaks as well. RSBell Media channel there. We got Cheryl Chumley and, of course, Jonathan Emord. And right now there's a whole lot of saber rattling, apparently. Apparently, I guess you'd say. I don't know what's rattling in North Korea. maybe the pipes or something. I mean, this is a country that can't feed its people. And yet this guy, Kim Jong-un, is saber rattling against the United States. What does he think he's accomplishing here? And it just kind of, I still have a sense that he's just a puppet of China. I mean, if China wanted to, it'd be done tomorrow, wouldn't it, Jonathan?
Well, very much would be done tomorrow. And I think he serves a purpose for China, and that he's able to draw out the American response, and they can determine whether or not the United States is sufficiently interested in protecting Japan and its interests in Southeast Asia to stand up for itself. And so, for example, China learns whether or not the time is ripe for it to take Taiwan. It wants to take over Taiwan, wants to eliminate nationalist China, as we used to call it. And it also wants to see the extent to which other powers in the world, the Iranians and others that have nuclear ambitions and that are allied with China and with Russia, can gain an upper hand in those parts of the world too. So we're in a very precarious spot. We've got to defend our interests, and we have to make unequivocally clear our commitment to use nuclear force. Not only that, we really have to expand our presence in the rest of the world and deploy more anti-ballistic missile systems and weapon systems, offensive weapon systems, ballistic missile systems, to make it clear, because this guy's a crackpot if he thinks that there is a chance that he could launch one of those puppies over into some part of the world without the United States taking a reaction. But he'd do it in a heartbeat.
Sure.
So we have to make clear that any move on his part is going to result in overwhelming and absolutely horrific consequences for his whole country, and especially him.
Yeah, Cheryl's got a great piece on it at WashingtonTimes.com. Check it out. This headline reads, Donald Trump's fury and fire sure beats Barack Obama's butt kissing. I'm sorry. Cheryl, you come up with some great headlines there. What was that all about?
Cheryl's great.
Well, it's pretty blunt and to the point. The piece is just about, for 8 years, we went through not just, diplomacy from the White House, but just an outright apology tour, both at the outset of Barack Obama's presidency and straight through. And now here we have finally a president who is willing to say, hey, we're the United States of America. We're not going to sit here and cower in the corner at the United Nations and wait for the Security Council to give us a thumbs up on what we can do and can't do. We'll go that route, but we're also going to defend ourselves. And, I don't know if you guys heard, but the latest was Trump from his golf club, from his golf course in New Jersey, just told reporters that I don't know if my rhetoric on fire and fury was strong enough. And, you got to love this president for putting himself out there to stand strong for America first. And in the face of all this hand-wringing that's been going on from the left and the weak need of the right, he comes out and says, well, I think maybe I should have been even more aggressive with my rhetoric.
Well, he really takes Reagan's perspective on peace through strength seriously, because, again, if you show yourself as a potential victim or the prey, right, the animals will pounce at that point. And Kim Jong-un, whatever he is, puppet or otherwise, is not going to respond to mamby-pambyism. He's going to have to hear seriously that Trump is willing to back them down. And I think that's what's happening here. And it certainly is different than what you called butt kissing in the headline there at Washington Times.
Well, if you're in a playground as a kid and you have a bully and he takes your lunch money, you don't ask for it back. And I put this in my piece. You punch him in the gut and you grab your money, and that's it. Problem ended. And this is what Trump's doing. He's dealing with a bully in a language that only a bully knows. And I don't think Trump is a crazy man hoping that the U.S. will go to nuclear war. But I do think he's making it clear that we are not the same administration as Barack Obama's was. We are not going to stand idly by and just chit-chat over what we should do.
Yeah, I think that's an important point you make there, Cheryl, because the left has become unhinged over this President Trump, and they think he's absolutely, well, I won't even go there, but the reality is this man has our best interest at heart. There's no question he wants to put America first. And hey, when you're being bullied, you don't want to be bullied anymore. And one of the ways to do it, as you said in your piece, is not to say, please, can I have my lunch money back? So, folks, we got a lot more broadcast healing to go. Thanks, Cheryl Chumley. Check her out at Washington Times and CherylChumley.com. More with Jonathan Emord after this break.
The Robert Scott Bell Show.
In all my years of radio, I've never seen anything.
All right, great job, Cheryl. That's a classic headline if there ever was one.
I'll be right back.
Thank you.
All right.
Talk to you guys next week.
And Cheryl, you're getting a
Take
lot
care,
of
Cheryl.
a lot of feedback on Twitter when you put this stuff up, I notice.
Oh my goodness. Haters and people who like me.
I love it that but again, you're stirring the pudding,
Well,
and
that's
that's a
it.
good thing.
That's right.
Well, thank you.
We got you. If you ever need us, you just let me know.
Thank you very much.
All right, Cheryl. Lots of love. Appreciate you.
Bye now.
See ya. All right, Jonathan. Good segments. Always great with Cheryl.
Secret to it.
Oh yeah, she's fabulous. Yep, we're good. We're very fortunate that she comes on every week and takes her time to do that, and her contributions are just tremendous.
Yeah, especially with the responsibilities as being a mom and a wife and everything on top of that. And I know because I'm having to be Mr. Mom this week.
Well, and also her finger really is on the pulse of all the news. I mean, she's really in the catbird seat, reviewing all sorts of information.
Yeah.
So when she's on, she's capable and frequently does give us the most up-to-date information, and her analytical skill is great. So we end up with good analysis too. So it's a real tremendous opportunity.
We have an interesting comment here from Cedai Fun Mac. I don't know if they're real names when people put up on the web, but they're watching on YouTube. And their comment is this, Jonathan, if you want to comment on it. It's interesting to note that in 2000, there were a handful of countries with central banks not owned or controlled by the Rothschilds: Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Iran, Cuba, North Korea. Perhaps coincidentally, the countries on that list also have had big problems with weapons of mass destruction, or at least accusations of such. Again, here's the controversy because it goes into supernatural territory where we talk about international bankers, and we know that they play both sides of almost every conflict, right? From the Federal Reserve to the IMF and the World Bank. I don't know if you thought or delved into that at all.
Well, I think that there's a tendency to make more of this than there is. I don't mean to say that it's not important. It is, to the extent to which banking has an effect, positive and negative, on world economies and on ultimately the choices that are made by countries and by prominent individuals. But in a situation like this with Korea, we've got a person who is a total megalomaniac, the equivalent of really an Asian Hitler. And he is outside the control of the Chinese. I mean, they've tried to control his behavior. They don't want North Korea to become a parking lot that is irradiated for 100 years. Mm-hmm. They don't want the United States. And they anticipate that might
Norm's
happen.
here.
Okay. But what they really cannot do is totally control him. But they've been facilitating him because it is in their interest to do so. As long as he doesn't actually get the United States to nuke him, the Chinese benefit from the testing that he puts the United States through and determining what our weapon systems are, how we respond, what we will do, how serious we are about that region of the world, and whether or not they can expand their control of the region at the expense of the United States. So they learn a lot from his jingoism and our response to it, and they like that. But ultimately, if he does put one of those miniaturized miniaturized nuclear weapons on top of an ICBM, he's going to really, that's going to be the question.
Norm,
are we going to eliminate
Norm, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you, but the advertising.
Oh, the traffic's on for Norm.
Kind of drowning
Cut the traffic on him. Thanks.
I got it.
All right, Norm.
Okay.
Thanks.
I can hear you.
Just want to give you a heads up. We are for the first time live simulcasting on YouTube at RS Bell Media Channel. on YouTube. So you won't be on video, but they can hear us talking on the break. So just in case you were going to say something untoward about somebody's mama, you won't do it.
I will not.
No, you would not. I know you wouldn't, but just giving you a heads up. Eventually, we might be able to integrate some video into our discussions, but for now, just we're testing this for expanding the audience, those that like to watch these things. So it's a first time and historic day, and so we're going to launch into what's going to happen when Congress returns. We got the sanctions maybe impacting free speech, and Jeff Sessions wanting to take all your stuff.
Yep.
Making sense out of medical propaganda. Here's Robert.
All right, back at it. Sacred Fire of Liberty Hour. We are joined now by our good friend from the Campaign for Liberty. He was the guy that took over once Ron Paul retired from there. It's Norm Singleton. Norm, welcome back, my friend.
Good to be back with you and Jonathan. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying the August.
Yeah, is there a way that the recess can continue and the government doesn't come back to work at all? Is that possible?
I think that we'd be better off if that happened, given what could happen in the fall.
Well, what do you think's coming back when they come back?
Well, they have a full plate on their agenda. Tax reform, of course, they're talking about doing. They have to reauthorize what's called S-CHIP, which is the Children's Health Insurance Program, which was a 90s creation of Orrin Hatch and Ted Kennedy. And it's designed to provide supplemental medical care for low-income children who don't qualify for traditional Medicaid, or their parents don't qualify for traditional Medicaid, I believe is how it works. And it's administered by the states. And there's talk that there might be some insurance company money put in there, some Obamacare tax relief that obviously didn't get done when the whole Obamacare replace reform scheme fell apart. And there's also a debt ceiling increase coming up. According to the Treasury Secretary, the debt ceiling expires at the end of the month. That's going to be a interesting fight, because you have the question of the first time that Trump, under the first time in 8 years that a Republican president and the first time in over a decade that a Republican president and a Republican Congress are looking at a debt ceiling increase. Mm-hmm. And with what's going on now, the dynamic now, what is going to happen there, and what concessions will the Democrats demand, and what concessions will conservatives try to demand in order to get the votes for a debt ceiling increase, and who's going to win? Well,
Norm, if I can ask, isn't the debt ceiling a legal fiction? I mean, maybe I'm not using those terms right, Jonathan, but it's like they keep saying that fiscal conservatives, or people that understand real monetary policies as such, know that you keep adding debt, eventually you'll have to pay it off, or it'll collapse, as it does throughout history. And governments that think they can print their way out of it are just oblivious to reality.
All of us have a debt ceiling. Everyone who has a credit card or debit card has a debt ceiling. With your debit card, it's how much you have in your checking or savings account. With a credit card, it's how much the credit card company views you as trustworthy to go out and make purchases that they will pay for, and then you will pay the company back at a what they call a reasonable rate of interest. But what we can't do is just unilaterally say, well, I'm about to hit my credit limit, and I don't really feel like cutting back on my spending, so I'm just going to write Visa a letter saying that I've decided to double my credit limit, double my debt ceiling this year, and I'm going to put in a little bit of minor cutbacks to make them happy and make them think that I'm being fiscally responsible. But it's really just a shell game. I mean, can you imagine? But that's basically what Congress does.
Right.
The debt ceiling is your credit limit, it's your borrowing limit. And it was there
Norm,
to put a little bit of accountability
I want to ask this of Jonathan, if you don't mind here real quick, because, you hear about the backed by the full faith and credit of the United States, right? Whatever happened to backed by, well, gold and silver, like in the Coinage Act of 1792? Did that just somehow get repealed and I didn't know about it?
Well, President Nixon took us off the gold standard, and it's a disastrous chain of events. I mean, the stability of the dollar changes. You invite more inflation, you invite more spending, you invite what we have now, which is an endless interest in expanding the amount of credit, as Norm put it, that the United States thinks that it ought to have. And at some point, there is a collapse. I mean, at some point, that people start to question whether or not they can rely upon the dollar to be sound in currency, and that, they remove us from the dollar, no longer becomes the international exchange currency. Maybe it's the Chinese equivalent that takes its place, which has disastrous consequences for the United States. But sooner or later, the creditor countries that are feeding this, principally China, that is feeding this spending spree, will say no more, or they'll say we're not going to provide as much backing as we have. And you can't, we just cannot continue to do this indefinitely. But that is the political direction of both parties, is to just not rein in government.
I would argue
we need substantial reductions in the size and scope of government, and it's just not happening.
Most everything that the government does currently would be defined as unconstitutional in an earlier setting in our history. And somehow it just kind of massaged into reality because the people figured they could get free stuff. And of course, they could be bought off as well, the lack of principles that they have. But economic sanctions or economic warfare, I mean, I believe the Federal Reserve is doing warfare on a lot of the American people by diminishing the value of the dollars that they perceive that they're working for. But we know that in war, economics is everything. And of course, there are sanctions against Russia. We talked about sanctions against Iran, North Korea and such. But Norm, you've just written about the sanctions. Is it the ones on Russia that might impact freedom of speech here in the United States? Is that where I was getting?
Well, this is part of the so-called Russiagate and the question of, did Russia interfere with the American election? And I think there's disputes on that. I think that the evidence is doesn't show any grand conspiracy. Certainly not a grand Putin conspiracy to elect Donald Trump. And given, as I believe we talked about during the election, the fact that Clinton Foundation's close and somewhat shady dealings with Russian state-controlled companies, it really doesn't make sense why Putin would not have been at least as favorable to a Hillary administration as he was to a Trump administration. Her rhetoric aside, her family's actions belay that. But all that putting aside, the bill goes after organs of Russian propaganda. And what they're talking about is Russia Today and Sputnik, which are two outlets in U.S. media that are, I know Russia Today is, I believe Sputnik is too, funded by Russian business interests. And allegedly, and again, in the case of Russia Today, it might be more than allegedly directly controlled by the Kremlin. The fact is these outlets do provide voices you don't normally hear in the mainstream media, progressives, but also a lot of libertarian voices, which is common in propaganda. It's what the United States does when it funds alternative media. But what's scary about all this is that if you look at the talk surrounding this, it goes beyond just saying institutes that they can prove are funded by foreign agents, funded by the Kremlin, to institutes that are critical of foreign policy, critical of domestic policy, critical of the Federal Reserve, and even police brutality, on the grounds that they are doing the bidding of America's enemies because they're weakening America's faith in the in government. And this is literally Stalinesque, or Nazi-esque. The idea that criticizing the government is helping your enemies. This is something that we would, like I said, we would have expected from the Soviet Union. We'd expect it from Fidel Castro, from Hugo Chavez. It's not something that we should have in America. The idea that I can't post a blog critical of the Federal Reserve because I'm helping America's enemies, because I'm sowing distrust of the American economic system and the American economic order, and America's leadership role in the global economy.
Norm, if the American economic order is so weak that it fears the American people actually knowing alternative points of view, we got bigger problems than that. And I think that, that goes to. Go ahead, Norm.
Right. Well, if Putin was cracking down on dissident journalists in the Soviet Union, in Russia,
yes,
or when the Soviet Union cracked down on dissident journalists, and used the grounds that they were CIA fronts, that they were spouting American propaganda, we criticized them, we laughed at them, and that was one of the things that we pointed to that said that during the Cold War, that said that our system is better than theirs. It's one of the things that Ronald Reagan pointed to when he said that communism is doomed to fail and will land on the ash heap of history. Well, today we are repeating the same mistakes that the Soviet Union made, and that leaders like Ronald Reagan and thinkers like Ludwig von Mises and F.A. Hayek pointed to as the flaws in socialism that would bring it down. Big government, a welfare state, a warfare state, even an endless war in Afghanistan, and now trying to use patriotism as a means of not of fostering free expression of ideas on the grounds that this is what America is all about, but silencing it on the grounds that if you criticize America, you're helping Putin in the international stage.
Well, what about that, Jonathan?
And,
our strength is in embracing of freedom of speech and, of course, dissenting views on the world, much less our own government.
Well, that's right. The Alien Sedition Acts in the 1790s were predicated on this erroneous view that seditious libel is appropriate for the government to prosecute. That is, that any statement contradictory of the administration or of Congress or of the president it can be prosecuted. Well, that's antithetical to the core values of the First Amendment. That led Thomas Jefferson and James Madison to draft the Virginia and Kentucky resolutions condemning it. And this is similar. This is an overexuberant reaction to this bogus claim of collusion with the Trump administration. But after the break, we can perhaps I can explain a little bit about why everybody's missing the point on the Russian meddling with the election.
All right, well, let's get back to that after this break. I'm curious as all get out, as we say in the South, as to what Jonathan Emord has to say about it.
You're listening to the Robert Scott Bell Show. The Robert Scott Bell Show.
I don't know if they say that in Washington, D.C., but I'd like them all to get out.
So would we all, Robert.
Yeah. Go home. Don't come back. Leave us alone.
It's peaceful here, and I'll tell you, even last week I was driving on not the Beltway, but 395, and I noticed it seemed like unusually clear for that time of day that I was on it, and then I realized, it's because Congress is gone, and when Congress goes, a lot of people hit the road.
Yeah, they got no one else to mooch off of. Yeah. Absolutely amazing. Any projects that the people would want to know? Those of you watching on YouTube, Norm Singleton, as I say, is from the Campaign for Liberty. This is an organization that Ron Paul originally started, and that was setting the stage for a lot of education. And as far as outreach and such, how can people participate with the Campaign for Liberty? You can let our folks watching on YouTube know, Norm.
Go to campaignforliberty.com and you can sign up as a member. You can donate. You can see if there's a active state group in your state, and if there is one, you can get information on how to join. if there's not, you can get information on how to start one if you're interested.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. So, Jonathan, when we come back...
I know Jonathan...
Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, I know, John. I'm sorry. I'm not used to having an audience listening to the between break conversations, but I was going to say on the next, if we have time, I'd like to say a few words about after Jonathan points about Russia, a few words about the civil asset theft issue.
Yes, yeah, that's definitely on the docket for next segment. So we'll open with Jonathan. You're pointing out the things that everybody's missing about the Russia issue, and then we'll transition to that Campaign for Liberty blog post that Norm put up about the endless theft by government without due process.
Sounds great.
Cool.
And hopefully we won't have a nuclear war between now and when Congress comes back.
Yeah, I'm hoping that. I think we all are. I don't have a sense that when back to the wall that China is real interested in nuclear conflagration in that area either. That at a certain point they're going to say, you know what, we better calm this guy down.
There is an interesting theory that's floating around, which is that Donald Trump is actually acting as the is not just shooting from the hip, that he's working with his foreign policy team, and all of his provocative tweets are part of a carefully calculated strategy to make Kim Jong-il think that, like, oh my God, there's actually someone in the White House who may be crazier than me.
Yeah, I think he's pretty strategic. I know people don't believe that, but as I said on the air before and off the air to you guys, that I know someone that's worked with him side by side very closely for 10 years, and what the leftist media thinks he is, they're wrong. But what are you going to do? People have their belief system, and they're so enraged by adrenal exhaustion that they can't think clearly anymore on these issues.
I was thinking about that today. It's something maybe we can discuss in more detail in future shows. But I think one of the reasons you've seen the hysterical reaction is because the left was so certain that Hillary would win and that it would be followed up the historic presidency of the first African-American president who came from the progressive wing of the Democratic Party, with 8 years of the first woman president who also has roots in progressivism, although she's, like her husband, is kind of more ideologically flexible maybe than Obama, although not as ideological flexible as her husband. And they were so certain that they were going to win. They were so certain that America was trending in their direction, with the exception of, and they honestly believed that the only people who really supported Trump was a handful of dead-enders, to use Rumsfeld's famous phrase, and what they called, and they were safe in dismissing them, calling them deplorables, because those people just didn't matter. That it was just such a shock to find out that no, actually, there is still, it's still a very split country ideologically, but the majority actually don't have parts of your beliefs.
Rocking the health world through the power of radio. It's the Robert Scott Bell Show.
Good news, folks. If you ever miss a show, you can go right to robertscottbell.com, download the archives for free, as well as our home and broadcast radio syndication, GCNlive.com, and our affiliates around the country, around the world at UK Health Radio as well. Norm Singleton here from the Campaign for Liberty, Jonathan Emord, Emord.com. And Jonathan, you were about to reveal when we went to break what everybody's missing about all of the Russia. A lot of it's nonsense, some of it's real, but how do you parse the two?
Well, the supposition that people operate on is that the Russian meddling in the election, which is quite real, didn't manifest itself in anything material this time, but the attempts were quite real, were for the purpose of getting one candidate or another elected. In other words, that they wanted to tip the national election to favor Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton. The common story is that Hillary lost because of this on the left, which is wholly unsubstantiated. But the real issue here, I mean, if you look at what's actually going on, this is something that has occurred year after year after year with the Russians trying to hack into the American electoral system and nullify votes or cause votes to be shift from one candidate to another, is that they want to defeat American confidence in the electoral system. They want to attack democracy. That's the Russian initiative. It's to try to screw up American politics so that people will become irate and discontented with democracy, thinking that it's hopelessly corrupt and that there's no way to place any faith in our system. That's what they want to do. They want to destroy American confidence in the electoral system. They don't care who's elected. They care about whether or not they're able to manipulate our system such that the people will lose confidence in the government.
Right. And listen, Jonathan, there are a lot of legitimate reasons to not be confident in the government. Well, let's be honest. But yeah, you're right. If Putin was going to score, it wasn't to tip the election, although I think he wanted Hillary because they had good deals on uranium through her and her foundation. But the reality is you upset the semblance of confidence in government. Of course, we can, again, go into the details as to why we want constitutional governance, but that's a different argument than, oh my gosh, Russia hacked the election and that's why Hillary lost and that's why the snowflake leftists can't handle it. They're still in shock, as Norm had mentioned, and even discussed a little bit more on the break for those of you watching on our YouTube channel, on our RS Bell Media channel. Now, theft without due process. This is a big issue. This should be an issue that anybody that cares about private property would say, you know, I'm a little bit upset with Jeff Sessions and his argument that we need to take stuff without due process. Norm, did you write about this?
Ron Paul wrote about this at the campaign, which is at the Campaign for Liberty website and other websites. It is that we have a authoritarian system for years called civil asset forfeiture. That's where the government will seize property that they believe is convicted is been involved in a crime, since there's a legal fiction here that the property was what is being charged. They can take your property without convicting you of a crime. They only need to show by preponderance of the evidence that the property was involved in the crime. And they can even take property from people who had no knowledge or consent to the use of their property for a crime. So if you let your friend borrow your car and it turns out your friend wants to borrow your car to use it as a getaway vehicle in a bank robbery, you can lose your car. If you rent a room in your home to your grandson and it turns out that you didn't know about this, and obviously you never consented to it, but your grandson is dealing drugs out of his room, you can lose your house. This is an outrageous, and there's been a movement against it. One of the few good things that Eric Holder did was put some very modest, and it was very much overplayed by the media. The actual effect on it, what he did was
real quick,
the
Norm, we're
equitable
almost out of
sharing
time.
program, where the states and feds share. But Jeff Sessions is going back on this as part of his effort to ramp up the drug war and other authoritarian police state policies. He is going to ramp up civil asset forfeiture and go against the modern tide. And that's why Ron Paul has suggested that perhaps Donald Trump should find a new AG.
Okay. Well, Jonathan.
And a Trump policy, I would say Jonathan Emord should be the Attorney General.
I want Jonathan Emord in for anything in government because he gets it. And he's a constitutionalist in the order of the founding fathers. So, Jonathan, thank you, my friend. Thank you, Norm. We got a whole other.
Thanks, Norm.
Yeah, we got a whole other hour broadcast dealing coming up. Stick with us.
The Robert Scott Bell Show.
Listen to what Jeff said.
All right, good show. Norm, way to wrap it up.
I didn't hear any bumper music there for the intro for the last segment or leaving it.
So who didn't send feed to Jonathan on the board there? Because he should have heard that. We heard it.
Yeah, I turned the wrong knob.
The wrong knob. Okay.
Did that. Sorry.
Yeah, Jonathan needs to be able to hear it, but no problem. Glad to know we got it covered. So, Jonathan, you said next week.
Found out on YouTube.
It went out on YouTube. What did you say?
Yeah, that I didn't hear that.
Oh,
so yeah, so anyhow, that's good that it went out on YouTube. So anyway, the other thing is transparency is important. We believe in that.
Yes.
The other thing is, yeah, next week I'll be in Dallas, so I'll be calling calling in.
Okay, by phone. All right, so we'll be set up for you. Safe journey there, of course, and anything we can do to help from this end at any point, you just give me a holler.
Perfect.
All right, Jonathan.
Thank you,
Thanks
sir.
so much. Thanks, Norm.
You're welcome. Yep.
All right, now we are at the top of the hour break, just about in between, 1 to 2, right? And I usually run out and get my Echo water, right?
Run away.
Run away. Super Don.
Run, Forrest, run.
Super Don, can you pretend you're like this Magi complex from Organics? And then, I don't know, shake a little bit while I'm gone. Talk to the
hold
audience
on. You know
YouTube.
what? No, look. Let's see here.
I'll
Let
be able
me
to
make
see
sure
it
I got
for
the
you.
right one. Now, if I shake the turmeric 3D,
Be
will
right
that
back.
sound the
Okay.
same as the Magi complex? That's
Try
the
it.
question.
Try it.
There you go.
I think they sound pretty similar. So I'm going to get
Yes.
some Echo water. I need some molecular hydrogen to jazz me up for the second hour. And Super Don is going to talk to you guys that are watching on YouTube. Okay? I'll be right back.
All right. All right. Well, we have survived the first hour of our live simulcast on YouTube. And I just want to give a shout out to the folks in the chat room. We've got, now you know what? Robert stumbled with this. Is it Sitai Fun Mac? Sitai Fun Mac. I'm not sure. We got Steve Connell. Kimberly Wall, Flippin' 306. Who else we got? We got John Chris, and actually, John Chris, I'm going to guess you're the guy who's waiting on hold right now to talk about North Korea. I don't know that we're going to be able to get to that phone call because we're kind of changing gears and moving on from the politics into some other stuff here. But I'll check with Robert, see what he wants to do there when we get back. True Kirby just popped into the live chat on YouTube. So appreciate you guys being here and helping us with our maiden voyage here of doing this thing on YouTube. And so in the meantime, if you have any questions or comments or anything about what it is that we are talking about, be sure to put those into the chat box. We'll make mention of those on the air or on the breaks, either one, whatever fits in. And just to give you a little bit of a sneak peek as to what we're going to be doing this hour, we're going to be opening up talking about the war on parents when it comes to vaccines, maybe some information here on what you need to know about vaccine exemptions now that we're going into school time for those of you with kids. We're also going to be talking about the chemicals in your tap water, which is really interesting. You know, the EWG, the Environmental Working Group, they put together a website not too long ago where you can actually enter in your zip code and they will give you the results of the water testing in your municipal water system. And it's quite eye-opening. I punched in the zip code of where I'm at right now in Arkansas, and it kind of made my head explode as far as what it is that's in the water. You would not believe what's coming up in the testing, and you don't hear really much of anything about it. And then we got a bunch of comments of the day. We're going to get caught up on a comment from Steve A.G., a comment from Sharon, and a comment from Alex talking about various things, climate change, talking about aloe vera, and then an interesting comment that we got about Generation Z versus Generation X, which I did not realize that there was any contention between the two, but apparently there is. So we'll be talking about that stuff and your questions and comments as well. So I think I hear Robert coming back.
Did I miss anything?
No, you didn't miss anything.
All right.
You didn't miss anything. So just gave a shout out to everybody that's in the chat room right now.
Cool. I don't see it. You know, the thing is,
Yeah, I know you don't see. You just have to take my word for it.
I do. We used to, when we did Google Hangouts a while back, right, with some of our sponsors like the cannabis stuff, they had an ability to have multiple video, right? Yeah, because I could be you, because we could see you through Google Hangouts too. So I know there's a way.
Well, you know what? I think there's a way still to do that.
Yeah.
But right now, I just wanted to get this working and make sure we had this down first.
Yeah. I just remembering that as I'm looking at this, I'm like, I'm all alone here. I feel lonely. I don't know. You're interacting with the outside world. I have no earthly idea what's going on.
That's okay. Well, that's what your producer is supposed to do. So, just so you know, the question or the comment that we got earlier from Typhon Mac.
Yeah.
He just gave an explanation. Apparently, his buddy translated his name, which is Steven, into Chinese, and so he uses it as a nickname. So he did that just to stump you, I think.
Okay, he stumped me. He did stump me.
That's
no problem there. Yeah. So
all right, we're 2 minutes from airtime.
Right.
Here's my suggestion, and again, you guys who are watching right now, this you get to see how things work. These are the gears turning behind the show. Robert, what I'm going to suggest we do, since we're going to be opening up on the vaccine issue, why don't we crossfade the vaccine thing?
Okay, we can do that. All right, I've got it set up. Do I have it open? Yeah, I do. I had a feeling you might be asking for that. So,
Robert and I have been working together for so long, we finish each other's sentences half the time. So
it's scary. It's a radio marriage before it was legal. Yeah.
Only in some states.
You don't ask for permission where none is required, So, all right. So we got the global crackdown on vaccine punishment for those who are not wanting the vaccine. So which countries are really hammering this? We talked Australia recently. We talked Italy.
Yeah, we got and France. Yeah.
France now joining in. Oh, there's such desperation. No dissent. All right, so you just let me know if there's any questions coming in through YouTube, because I see the Google screen, the Google Hangout screen. I don't see what's happening on the actual YouTube screen.
That's okay. You've got enough buttons and knobs to work out.
I think I mentioned my daughter was on FaceTime with her friends, right? And that was eating up all the bandwidth we had. So
it's funny because we got a comment from somebody when they noticed that, and they said, well, maybe what did he say? It was fuzzy. Mm-hmm. Perhaps Robert didn't really shave.
No, I really did. Look, I really did. So it was cool because I got this shirt the other day, and I got a what was that Deadpool shirt for my son, and
I just noticed you're wearing a Metallica shirt. Nice.
I said this just to be cool on the air.
Here we go, dude. We're going live.
Hour 2.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
The Robert Scott Bell Show.
It's absolutely ludicrous that in a country that calls itself free, we cannot, or our farmers cannot travel across state lines for raw milk.
Robert Scott Bell.
At least 15 high school students are suffering from an illness that causes them to have uncontrollable twitching and verbal outbursts.
Contaminated rock and fill and soil was used to build the new school.
Robert Scott Bell.
Paula Dean, the butter queen, kept her diagnosis of type 2 diabetes a secret.
You waited until you got a big pharmaceutical company to pay you.
Taking on bureaucrats and corporations that would stand in the way of health freedom and making sense out of medical propaganda. The voice of health, freedom, and liberty, Robert Scott Bell.
Adverse reaction.
Way to bum people out. We have to play the vaccine theme to open up hour 2. Good Lord. One day it would be nice not to have to talk about vaccines on the Robert Scott Bell Show. Would really be great. But until the day when governments and the people and the corporations and the media, until that day that they stop trying to force people to accept these dangerous and sometimes deadly interventions to prevent disease, for which they actually don't prevent, they create many diseases by injection, we're going to have to keep talking about it here. There's a lot of people that don't get it yet, that haven't learned what we know, what I know for sure, and what I want to let loose on here on the Robert Scott Bell Show. Of course, this show is about health, freedom, and healing liberty. And how could we be about that if we didn't point out the dangerous absurdity of mandatory injections of toxic ingredients that you wouldn't put into a baby's bottle? This is absolutely not what we're going to stand for. We've talked recently about Australia. Polly Tommy goes to Australia. She doesn't hide why she's going to Australia. She's hanging out with the vaccine skeptics, and they're going around doing a tour with the Vaxxed movie and answering questions at the screenings. On the way out of Australia, she finds that she's banned for 3 years. I saw a Periscope update they did earlier today. And she said, yeah, they said because there would be this, get the irony of this. Super Don, I don't know if you saw this. This is absolutely incredible. They said they're worried about adverse effects of her being in Australia. Yeah.
Wow.
Adverse events.
They use the word adverse?
Yes. And they use adverse events, I believe, to describe her presence in Australia because she's going to cause riots or something. She's a sweet little British lady in America, and she's going to Australia for the sake of children telling stories, learning stories, hearing stories, and reporting on them. And on the way out, the snowflake government of Australia bans her for 3 years. Just incredible. And by the way, folks, if you're in Australia and you're an Australian, there's apparently some kind of giveaway to all the people. But if you don't vaccinate, you don't get the giveaway. And I've heard some people from Australia say, well, it's not a giveaway. It's not welfare. It's just what we get. I'm like, dude, if the government is giving it to you, they had to take it from somebody else. So maybe they took it from you and they're giving it back. But they're now saying that even if they took it from you, because that's what taxpayer money is, taken from the taxpayers, and they say now we won't give it to you because you don't want to vaccinate your children in Australia. Now go to Italy. They recently passed this mandate for vaccinations in Italy, also in France. And this smacks to me of we are winning. The people on the right side of this equation, the people who want to genuinely facilitate powerful immunity through, dare I say, nature, in the natural world, and we do not want to involve toxic poisons being injected into our children. Now, they would not have to mandate this if it were manna from heaven, if it were so amazing nobody got sick and nobody died from it. They wouldn't have to mandate it. The fact that they are mandating it in countries and trying to do so in the United States should tell you all that you need to know, because those of you who are, I've got some libertarian listeners out there, maybe viewers, and some of the libertarians don't like me because I'm a homeopath. Believe it or not, Super Don, this has happened. I've been on the circuit and I'm like, I'm all about health freedom and all of that. But then they find out I'm a homeopath and they're like, oh, well, that's not real. Oh. You're doing fantasy voodoo.
Oh, you're one of those.
Right. Yeah. As if that takes away your street cred for being a homeopath, well, no, for being a libertarian. Now, I'm not a large L libertarian, but one who loves liberty and who defends liberty.
Right.
And suddenly now, because I do something that doesn't fit into their mental midget status, because they can't conceive of anything besides molecular reductionism. Now, of course, you've gone beyond the pale. And yeah, there are libertarians like that. I can't help them. But the reality is here, if you really believe in liberty, even if you think that vaccines are manna from heaven, you would not enlist the government to force it on anyone, because that is the use of violence. And of course, if anything, the libertarian principle stands for is that we will not use violence to force our way onto somebody else. That is like, when people get confused about what is libertarianism, that's the bottom line. You won't use force or fraud to get your way. And of course, that is what the government is doing. That's what broadcast media and the mainstream mostly of media is doing. That's what the Australian government is doing. That's what the government of California is doing, to mandate vaccines without exemption unless you homeschool. And for how long, we don't know. And so the fear, of course, is disease. And the people of planet Earth that have been brought up to believe a Pasteurian construct, that is, viruses, bacteria, fungus, these things they call pathogens. The very encountering of a pathogen, right? If somebody sneezes on you, if they have flu virus, you'll automatically get the flu. It's a lie to begin with. It doesn't explain how disease actually occurs, because many people are in and interacting with people who are sick all of the time, and they don't always get sick. And it's true of children too. But that brings up a bigger issue that calls into question the entire pharmaceutical vaccine construct, that if we only had the antibody, we would never get sick. Except that the people who got sick in many of these outbreaks for whooping cough are fully vaccinated for whooping cough and have apparently the antibodies for the whooping cough. But as I've said, and Tatiana Bukanic, who's a PhD immunologist, has said, the immune system is much more complex than antibodies. So if the antibodies are your holy grail lives in toxic hell because it's not enough. Now, I'm not opposed. I don't picket against antibodies. You ever see me draw a sign? I'm protesting. What are you protesting, Robert? I'm protesting antibodies. Oh, I hate those bastards.
You could hold a sign that says hashtag not my antibodies.
Not my antibodies, right?
There you go.
No, I'm not saying that. People, listen to me. And antibodies, great. But again, the problem is the vaccines, the way they're implemented, by intoxicating and violating and bypassing the normal immune function and the normal way we interact with the environment, you actually damage and sometimes destroy the immune system and other systems in the process of your holy grail, the antibody. And yes, you could still get sick with the disease you have an antibody for if your immune system no longer works, because the immune system is more than an antibody. How clear do I have to be? I mean, if it was only about antibodies, okay. But even then, we have a safer way to stimulate immunity, recognition, identification through homeoprophylaxis. And the truth about vaccines is coming back out. The mini-series that Ty Bollinger put together that I'm also featured in, we talk about homeoprophylaxis. So why would they feel the need to mandate vaccines? Am I missing the point here at all, Super Don? I mean, I just think that we're winning if they have to mandate them, because it shows you how weak their position is.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. They're doing, by force of gun almost here, they are trying to make sure that they get what they want. So, they wouldn't do that if there wasn't a threat to their, what would we say, their dogma when it comes to vaccines. And I want to point out here, we mentioned Italy, we mentioned Australia, we mentioned France.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of stuff going on in Germany as well, because in Germany they didn't prohibit exemptions to immunization. But if you remember, and I think we talked about this on the air, where they turned the teachers at the schools into snitches,
right,
to report parents, and the parents could get fined up to like $3,000 if they refuse vaccine counseling, or as I'd be vaccine brainwashing, or vaccine, whatever you want to call it, from their doctors. So yeah, I mean, we're seeing this in Germany too.
Folks, if vaccines were what they say they were, you wouldn't have to mandate them. People would be lining up on the streets to get them because they're so awesome. The fact that this doesn't happen, the fact that people are having to protest this around the world, should tell you the worthiness of those things. In a free market, vaccines would really barely exist. And then I'd say they wouldn't, because the way they're implemented is so dangerous that, as what happened in the 1980s when they went to Reagan and said, we're pulling out of America because we can't afford to do vaccines here because there's too many lawsuits against us. Why? Because the product was too damn dangerous. And it's still too damn dangerous, but they have been absolved of all liability. So now the profit center for the future of the pharmaceutical industry are vaccines. And they got adult mandates on the way. By the way, it's back to school season. It's vaccine viral shedding season. Keep your kids safe. We have in the show notes today at robertscottbell.com. We have in the show notes a link to our friends at Health Impact News. There's a back to school article, what you need to know about vaccine exemptions state by state by state. So no matter which of the 50 states you are in, you can click on it and you can learn how to access your exemptions. Except for California, where you're screwed. Get out now while you can, unless you homeschool. Otherwise, don't know what else to say. But vaccine shedding season is on. For those of you watching on YouTube, I've got our RS Bell Media channel. I've got a bottle of Sovereign Silver here. I'm just spraying it right now. Keep your kids strong as they're going to school. I'm giving them a dose in the morning and when they come home, because all the kids around them are being vaccinated. They're shedding who knows what. and you don't want your healthy kids, to be vulnerable to vaccine-induced diseases as well. It's bad enough for those who get injected. Folks, robertscottbell.com. The show notes are up. The links are up. Upcoming events are there. We'll talk about it. We've got comments of the day. We got questions of the day. Super Don says we have a caller to get to live on the air as well. 866-939-BELL, 866-939-2355. What's in the water? We've talked about it, but there's more news on that, and we're going to tell you what you can do about that. And you won't have to buy bottled water either ever again. That'll be cool. Stick around. Lots more healing to go. Check it out, RS Bell Media channel on YouTube if you want to watch me live on the air. I don't know why, but you can.
The Robert Scott Bell Show.
In all my years of radio, I've never seen anything like this.
The Robert Scott Bell Show.
Hey, folks. So we got 2 callers on the line. I didn't notice that. John and Idaho.
Chris, who's on the board? Andy, can you let Chris know? Thank him for calling, but we've moved on to a different topic.
Okay.
What
about
John? We're gonna take.
Yeah, we'll take John's call.
All right, sounds good.
All right. Check Skype. Yeah. So should we take John? Okay, you know that this John caller is okay?
He is actually one of the guys on YouTube.
Okay, cool. All right, so we'll take that. We got the water. I got Paul's water theme, but no Paul, so we won't do that.
Yeah. So the chat room's been busy.
Has it? Okay.
Yeah. So I've got a question here. This is for, Steve, I understand that you had your name translated to Japanese, but I'm going to just say Steve, just because I'm tripping all over I don't know how to pronounce that. But he's asking, have you interviewed a homeopath, Joette Calabrese? Does that ring a bell at all?
Name vaguely familiar. I don't recall interviewing. No.
Apparently she has a similar story of childhood disease with eczema until she learned about homeopathy.
Mm-hmm.
And after practicing for 29 years, she took it to the next level when she began studying in India from a family of homeopaths whose training goes back to Hahnemann.
Nice.
Hahnemann.
It's time for... No. It's the Hahnemaniacs.
Oh.
It's the Hahnemaniacs. Yes, we're zany. Okay, so that's a great story. I mean, I'd love to talk with someone that has shared, because
we'll look
history.
We'll look her up, see if we can reach out to her.
What else we got? Oh, here, look for our.
I'll be right back.
Okay, thanks, Andy.
Yep.
Let's see. This is the CBD balm. That's a little one to travel with, teeny tiny, but this stuff's awesome. Topical.
Be careful how you describe that when you get on a plane, though. If you're checking your bag and you say,
"I've got some."
It's a CBD balm. Yeah, that's all.
Balm. You got to use the L. Make sure they hear the L. Anyway, so I don't see the comments because it's one too many things I'd have to concentrate on. Let's see. Did I share the fact that we have the show notes are up? Let me see. Let's see if it's there.
You want to know something funny? I just noticed.
What did you notice?
And this, I swear, I promise this is true, and it's purely coincidental.
What?
I'm wearing my Metallica shirt today as well.
Dude, not really. You are.
I'm serious. I you know what? Here.
We are totally.
I'm gonna snap a photo.
Yeah, I got to see that.
I'm serious.
That is funny.
Right. Oops. So, all right. So we'll take John's call. Okay. John, if you're listening on YouTube, we're getting to you here next, and then we'll hit the water story. Have you gone to the website, the EWG website that they're referencing there, and punched in your zip code yet?
I have not. I will do
that. Dude, it is eye-opening.
Okay. Does it have yours too?
It does, yes.
Well, you're doing the zero water, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Because the stuff that they show that's in the water, it's like, how could that be in the water and nobody's saying anything about it or doing anything about it?
Right. That's amazing. All right. So do we want to come out of the gate, take the call, or do we want to go to the story first?
Let's take the call first.
Okay.
See if we can split this segment in half.
Okay. Did you tweet out that we're doing a live video thing?
I did, yes, at the beginning of the hour.
I thought that headline by Cheryl was hilarious. Caught me funny. I don't think we did this thing.
Scott Bell Show. Scott Bell Show.
First ever simulcast on YouTube through our Google Hangout. You can go to RSVL Media channel on YouTube. So look it up. It's there. I think there are links up in the show notes, Super Don. Is that correct? Where they can actually, I don't know, can they go to robertscottbell.com?
In the show notes? No, check it out. I try and make it as easy as possible to listen to the show.
Yeah.
I've done the same thing to watch the show. So if you go to robertscottbell.com right now, you'll see at the very top of the page in the right-hand corner above the audio player, you just click play on the YouTube video and you'll be able to watch.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I see it there. That's crazy, dude. Nice. So you can everybody can go to robertscottbell.com, and you can also sign up to be part of the RSVL Media channel, because we're going to be doing a lot more video now that we've got proof of concept. Yes, it's working. Our audio is still going out. This is amazing. We thought we'd never get here, but we did. We've arrived. Your patience has paid off, and it has paid off as well. For John calling in live on the air, 866-939-2355. Also, I understand John watching on the YouTube channel. Is that so, John? Is it so?
Oh, yes, I am. Sorry, am I on the air?
Yes, you are. So be careful what you say.
Oh, so yeah, I will be. Don't worry. I'm a fan of you. My cousin actually knows you, or has met you. He knows of you, Robert. His name's Birch.
Birch? And does he live out near you?
Yeah. He does. Well, he does now. But he actually knows a guy named Toldo who said to him, now tell me if this story is true.
Okay.
But he said that you meet him and he gives you.
Oh, I lost him. I don't know what happened there. Andy, do you know what happened? He just dropped. You might have to message that. That was weird.
I'm not sure.
No, we don't know.
How to get back hold of him.
All right. Well, call back if you can. I don't know. Maybe the story was so weird it just got cut off. I hadn't the slightest idea where he was going with that. But anyway, thanks for watching on YouTube as well. This is our first foray into that. Again, for those of you who think this is all pre-taped and canned, it is not. Live 2 hours a day, 6 days a week here on GCN. And, of course, robertscottbell.com. Archives are available. Purification is important. We've got a story here, and we talk a lot about water quality. Obviously, we got to clean up our act because they're injecting children with toxic medicaments and vaccines, the drugs that everybody's on. But even if you don't think you're on drugs, if you're not cleaning up the water coming in through through the city municipal system, you have no earthly idea. You probably don't want to know what you're drinking. And there's a headline here, and it's even Fox News picked this up. There might be dangerous chemicals in your tap water. And here's how to stay safe. Now, this goes beyond chromium-6, hexavalent chromium, the Aaron Brockovich story. You remember that? And in fact, you can, according to this article, is this true, Super Don? If you go to the EWAG site, Environmental Working Group, you can actually.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What happens here? Tell me how to do this.
Well, let me see if I can walk through it real quick. But it's they've got this database, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can type in your zip code, right? And it will tell you what the water testing results were in your local water district or municipality.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it's like, I typed in, like, for example, right now, real quick, I'm going to type in my zip code. Now, I live in Arkansas.
Okay.
956. Okay, here we go. So what it does is it shows you the different municipalities. You pick on it, and click on it. And right here, it says 7 contaminants were detected above health guidelines. And here's what they found: bromate, bromodichloromethane, chloroform, dibromochloromethane, dichloroacetic acid, and a couple of other things here I'm not going to try and pronounce. But these things they found were all above standard health guidelines. And it's in the tap water here.
Right.
And I've seen people comment from all over the place that are saying the same thing, that they're finding, manganese and nitrates and nitrites. And some places are even detecting, get this, we talked about Aaron Brockovich, the hexavalent chromium.
Right. Right. That's not the chromium we talk about here as a dietary supplement, 100%
No.
whole food form. So is there a link? Because I don't see the link in the article. I want to make sure people get that link. They can enter their area and find out what's in there. But in the meantime, I want you to get the Echo water. Now whole house filtration is available to you. If you own your own place, My goodness, get on there. Go to robertswater.com. Download the free ebook about the Echo Water and the molecular hydrogen. But also when you reach out to Synergy Science, how do we get the whole house filtration in, right? And they'll give you a Robert Scott Bell Show deal better than anywhere. They really love Robert Scott Bell Show listeners. They love you. And I love you too. So thank you for being here and cleaning up your water. The Echo Water you can put at the sink or under the sink, but the whole house system. And I've had a whole house system, but I'm about to replace it with what Synergy Science has done to upgrade it. And if you can't do any of that, then a passive system in your home that you can just buy filters for, at the very least, do something to clean up that water. Lots of comments of the day coming up after the break.
The revolution will be broadcast.
The Robert Scott Bell Show.
I have no idea what happened to John. I mean, he was in the mid-sentence and it just like cut, and that was like through GCN, and they didn't do anything that I know of. Andy said that on the board, no, we didn't know. So if he calls back, maybe we can talk to him on the break here. So we got comments of the day. I got to get ready with the audio for that. We did the vaccine theme. I couldn't find that link to the EWG thing in the article.
Yeah. Hold on here.
Put it out there.
I've got right here.
Blast it out. Yep. Make it easy if you can add it to the notes. That would be great.
It's called the EWG's Tap Water Database.
Speaking of tap water, I'm going to go clean up mine. I got some molecular hydrogen happening. Keep talking to Super Don out there.
Yes.
I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
All right. Sending the link to Robert. And I'm going to, if you aren't already familiar with our Facebook page, it is facebook.com/the RSB show. And we post the links every day of the stories that we're talking about. So you can kind of follow the bouncing ball as we're doing the show. And so if you want to go to the Facebook page, you can find the link there. I'm also going to drop it right here into the YouTube chat. Paste. Oh, oops, remove any web address. Oh, hey, I just learned something. I guess you can't put links in the chat here. And I guess that kind of makes sense. So if you want to manually tap it in, unless you want to go to the Facebook page, it is ewg.org/tapwater. And let me see if that works just by itself without all this other gobbledygook. Yes, ewg.org/tapwater. That will work for you. And then you just punch in the your zip code. And guys, I hope your zip code is better than mine. Because the stuff that you see that is in the tap water, the public tap water, you just shake your head and go, well. Now, here's the thing. I've heard some people talk about, some of the experts talk about this, and they'll say, oh, well, it's below dangerous levels. There are acceptable levels of crap in your water, say. And I don't know about you, but I don't think that there should be any acceptable levels of any of this stuff. You don't want any of it in your water. You don't want to go, well, you can have a little bit of poison. It won't kill you.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Right? Yeah.
My point is you reduce it everywhere you have control, and your water, you have more control than you think. But you got to step it out and find how, well, it is important, and then do what you got to do to get there. So.
Yeah.
All right, let's see what's going on. Yes, comments of the day coming up. Yeah, blast that link out and add it to the notes if you don't mind. Let's see, resend. All right, we got the resend here. And then we have the allergy thing. Okay, we'll got that. We'll hit that. And
so, yeah, we're comments of the day for the rest of the show. So, you guys, if you have any comments, you can always go to robertscottbell.com through the contact page and send it to us there. You can do it on Facebook, and now you can do it right here in real time on YouTube as well.
Hey, do you think that caller might have been a scam caller? Is it possible?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Because
that's why
my wife suspects that was a
that's
scam.
That's why there was some divine intervention that came out of nowhere and dropped that call.
Well, that was a beautiful thing.
Yeah, we can thank whoever did that. Right.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that.
Thank you, whoever you are.
All right.
That's called your producer.
Oh, okay. Nicely done.
You know that guy named Birch? No, I don't know anybody named Birch. Well, he meets you every once in a while to give you click.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So there you go. All right. See, that's
just so you know, folks.
Yeah.
For the first probably 2 years of my work in radio.
Yeah.
I was a call screener.
Yeah. Well, he knows. That's the thing is in live radio, you have to, and it's again, this is why we're not a caller-driven show as well. For those of you who listen, it's because most calls, God bless them, they don't take the show and elevate it. They can take it in a completely different direction. It's often not good. And, what we try to do is deliver content that's uplifting, even sometimes if we cover enraging topics, but ultimately that brings the power to heal back to you. So there you go. Let's see what else we got.
So kudos to your wife, because she nailed it as well.
Mm-hmm.
You develop a spidey sense after a while.
Good job.
Okay, here we go.
Rock and roll. Here we go.
Making sense out of medical propaganda. Here's Robert.
Remember, boys and girls, moms and dads, it's vaccine shedding season. The viruses you get will likely not come from wild strains, but will come from children who are hanging around with your children who have been vaccinated. And those things, again, a number of them have live viruses, attenuated but live, and in certain people can shed, and it's right there in the insert. So, folks, keep your kids strong. If they're old enough to take pills or capsules, our friends from Better Way Health have the beta-1,3-D beta-glucan, a fantastic immune modulator. I mentioned about the Sovereign Silver that we utilize as well. There are a lot of methods of preventing disease, is my point as I talk about vaccine mandates and the inevitable failure that they are. And they're an admission of failure by those who are pro-vaccine fanatics. So we'll talk about that some more at any time. And that's why we are on the air 2 hours a day, 6 days a week, because even that is not enough time. So thank y'all for being here. Super Don, thanks for making it sound so good. We got Andy on the board at GCN, and we've got lots of questions coming in. We also got these.
Hey, you guys! Hey, I tell you what. Hey, here's an idea.
Hey, listen up, everybody. Excuse me.
I got something to say.
Okay, our first comment comes from Steve A.G. Hey, Steve, what's happening, my friend? Remember he got on us because we missed something the other day? I don't remember what it was because we didn't know we missed it. So we said, squeak it again. Squeak it again. He says, hi, RSB and Super D. This is my resend of something I thought you guys would find interesting. And apparently it links to a Kickstarter campaign that Neil deGrasse Tyson is crowdfunding. He says it's a real science video game. A real science video. No wonder why I missed it, because I'm just like not interested in real science video games from Neil deGrasse Tyson. They say you can count how many times they use these words in the description, according to what Steve's writing us. He says, I did see
real science.
Real science,
I think what he's referring to.
Yeah, real science.
Real science.
Yeah, it's real science, right? You know, not the fake stuff that everybody else is doing besides TV personalities like Neil deGrasse Tyson and Bill Nye. I did see Bill Nye's name along with other experts as involved. Apparently, it's a game about space exploration. But what's interesting is that they are kickstarting to fund the dialogue with the community so that they can be involved in influence development. But this is interesting. Fund us so we can be part of the community that talks about the stuff before it actually never happens, because it's not. They want to be involved in the dialogue. Give us money so we can be involved in the dialogue. Really, Neil? Not enough on your PBS specials?
Well, and some of the details behind this game, what happens is you set off on missions, and you have a team of scientists that provide information and challenges to help you accomplish the goals that are set in the game. And they can also be your lifeline, providing guidance to you when you run into a life-threatening situation. Now, the question would be, what life-threatening situations would they be putting in this game, right? That you would have to somehow try and figure out. So what they do is, I guess there's like this new satellite system that's been put around the Earth, and the system reveals the following threats: environmental disaster, like quakes or volcanoes. Right, that could happen. Biodiversity, where they have Darwinistic predators versus prey that reshape life, pole reversals, massive weather events. Then they go into disease, okay, where you have like unknown viruses that could eradicate life. You've got space objects like asteroids or something like that collide with the planet. And then of course, as you would expect from Neil deGrasse Tyson and Bill Nye, the compliance guy, you've got climate change.
Oh,
so climate change is the one in there where they say the temperatures may shift widely, changing the planet.
Well, you're going to go to another planet and you're going to decry climate change? Is that what this is?
Well, you know, it's look, in a roundabout way, I get it. They're using video games. Video games are hugely popular.
Yeah.
Okay. And so if you create a game where it's going to be cool because you're like Star Trek and you're doing stuff in the planets and blah, 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 but then they start incorporating things like climate change or disease and things of that nature, it's a way to kind of get into the brains of the kids that are playing the games, right?
Yeah, well, you'll need vaccines to go in space. You'll need Al Gore to take some extra, not CO2 or something like that. You know, what's interesting to me, again, about the whole space exploration stuff, it's a complete, you know, what they call black ops or what is it? The kind of stuff that you don't see. Like there's the NASA budget.
A PSYOP?
Well, PSYOP maybe, but more or less the stuff, the budget that's off budget. You know, it's like no one gets to see it. But the reality is, if we're going to do space travel the way these guys are talking about, you're going to have transporters. I'm just saying. And some people argue that there already are. I don't know. But the reality is, if you're going to travel in space in a human, physical, animal body, they do not have the shielding to protect you against the cosmic radiation. I've said this many times on the air, and a lot of folks that they don't want to believe it. But, you know, we had an astronaut, Dwayne Graveline, on many years ago who acknowledged that. They talk about, you know, you'd have cancer before you would arrive. There's no way you're going to survive like in that movie Passengers. These are all fictitious. You have to have an ability to transpose space and time or get beyond it and just instantly be there, right? That's a whole different realm, and you don't need a spaceship necessarily for that. But interesting article or Kickstarter campaign, Steve Agee. Sorry we missed it the first time. And yes, it is interesting. It's interesting how stupid and gullible either they are that I think we are, that we would contribute so that they can be part of the dialogue. Anything that they want to be part of, I am not going to contribute to. That is Neil deGrasse Tyson and
well, they've reached their goal. I mean, believe it or not, they've gotten like $40,000 over what it was they were going for. So whatever.
Yeah,
we'll see what happens.
Not impressed. All right, we got another comment of the day. This is from Brittany. No, this is from Sharon. Oh, it's about Brittany. That's right, because we had one from Brittany the other day. It's from Sharon. She says, "Hi, Robert and Super Don. I'm just listening to Brittany on your questions from yesterday, August 9th, about being allergic to aloe vera. I am allergic to it. I started the aloe silver protocol on the same day I did a mask of bentonite clay and apple cider vinegar. The next morning, I woke with my neck all red, super swollen, and a horrible itch. I never imagined it was aloe, so blamed it on the apple cider vinegar in the mask, which I looked up online and found similar reactions to. I read that ACV could burn skin, so I continued the aloe silver protocol for 2 more days, and my neck kept getting worse. Very painful and swollen. Thinking it was a burn, I was smearing aloe on my neck each time I put it on. It hurt.
Oh, no.
But I still wasn't getting what was going on. I'm slow, I guess. Finally, I ended the protocol and stopped putting on the aloe due to how painful it was, and after a week, it died down. A few weeks later, I put aloe in a smoothie, and the next day I started to get the itch on my neck and the red swelling. I figured it out that time. Yikes, the aloe. I'm very disappointed with myself because I grow aloe here in Colorado, indoors and in my greenhouse. If I was in Colorado, I'd still be getting my aloe from Stockton Aloe 1 in Florida, and I'd be growing something else in Colorado because you can't.
Right.
I, too, thought about the strain of the aloe, which unfortunately I don't know. I got the first few plants at a local nursery and then kept propagating them until it is now taking over my house. But now I'm afraid to try any aloe again. I want to buy some aloe cheap. Yes, I want to buy some aloe cheap. I got loads of it in Colorado. P.S. I'm pretty and I don't have leaky gut. No, I think she meant to say I'm pretty sure I don't have leaky gut. You could be pretty, Sharon. That's great. I don't have a leaky gut. And as you suggested, that might be the case with Brittany. I've been listening to you for 10 years and very healthy. Wow, that's all. Sharon's been with us for 10 years. That's amazing. So just like I think Brittany figured out that she put the the silver on the burn, and that took away the itching, the pain, the swelling. You could do the same thing, Sharon. And I know there are folks that have this hypersensitivity to certain things. Now, there is a homeopathic form of aloe. It wouldn't be the same in the sense that it's not going to carry the silver through the gastrointestinal tract like the aloe vera juice does. But the aloe could be used to kind of work, from the sensitization or desensitization to an aloe allergy, for instance. So you could do homeopathic aloe for that. And there are other issues with allergies as to reasons why you react to certain things. And it's true, certain aloes may be reactionary or triggering things for you, and others are not. But you've been through a lot, Sharon, so I'm not going to tell you have to do it. But what if somebody wants to do the silver aloe protocol without the aloe? Now, what is the purpose of the aloe? Is to carry the silver past the stomach. So I've said that you can do it without the aloe, but you have to take a lot more silver. And perhaps you can mix it with a lot more water, but making sure that water is pure as you can pure it, right? Because there's a lot of garbage in water, as we just learned about last segment. And filtering it out, it's still not going to be as clean as the water, for instance, that's in Sovereign Silver. But maybe if you flood the system, you got to turn on the garden hose with it, drive that silver on further, and you may have the similar impact. But there are other adjuncts in Unlock the Power to Heal, the book I wrote with Ty Bollinger, in the chapter about the silver aloe protocol. And remember, when I healed my gut, it took me 2 full years at the age of 24 to 26 to heal it without the benefit of knowing about aloe or silver. Well, I knew about aloe. I didn't know about silver at the time. This is a long time ago. So it took 2 years. What I say the advantage of the silver aloe protocol is what took 2 years, I could do now in 2 months. Okay. So you trade that off and you go, dude, if I'm not allergic to aloe, I'm going for it. Could be 2 months, but it could be less time than that. And so that's the reason for it in that protocol. I haven't found another substance that would carry the silver and keep it active and intact other than perhaps water. But again, I don't have enough experience and people haven't gotten back to me that have done the silver water, if there is a silver water, right? Combination that is just pure water, but you want to have the cleanest water possible. So do you think that's at all helpful to Sharon or anybody that wants to go further with us?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else you would do. I mean, it's a bummer that she's allergic to the aloe.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a way to deal with that because aloe's a sensational product.
I would still say call up Aloe1, ALOE1.com. They have I don't know if it's a 954 number, but you can call now. I don't know who cares about toll-free numbers, and ask them about it. Tell them about your experience, Share, that you have seemingly an allergy to aloe that you've tried. Has anybody had that experience? Is anybody intolerant to it? And they're honest people. They're not going to go, oh, no, ours is different. If it, like I said, if there's a genuine aloe allergy, you might react to every aloe. But again, using homeopathy for allergies and including the homeopathic aloe, that could help you over time. So give it a go. And if you use it in a small area just to see how your skin would react, and that could give you a clue so you wouldn't have to go any further. But in the meantime, contact Sharon if you want aloe for cheap in Colorado. Okay? Let us know how they can reach you, and then we'll put it out there. All right. Do we have more comments of the day coming up, Super D?
We have one more, and this one's going to be kind of interesting.
Yeah, I think they brought back the show Battle of the Network Stars. Now we're going to have to do something like Battle of the Generations. And I know that's been going on forever, but the newest version of that we'll talk about after the break. Check it all out, robertscottbell.com. We'll tell you the upcoming events after this, too.
The Robert Scott Bell Show.
In all my years of radio, I've never seen anything like this.
The Robert Scott Bell Show.
All right. Anybody still on watching? Hi.
Any
more comments we need to react
to? In fact, Steve just made a comment. Well, after looking at his water on EWG, I think he's as shocked as I am. Yeah. But he did make one point that they don't list fluoride on there, even though it's present.
Because
which is interesting.
They don't believe fluoride is a contaminant or dangerous.
Right. But the one thing he did make mention of was that he's saying that if you consume hydrogen-rich water along with the silver and aloe, you may cure even quicker.
Nice. Very good comment. Yep. Excellent. I like that idea a lot. Because it's like in the midst of that, I would have said, now maybe come back on the air and talk about the fact that if you utilize the purified water that we get from the Echo unit with the hydrogen, that would be an essential way to help drive it. But of course, you need a lot more water to move through the system immediately. All right, let's see what's in our section here. I'm going to go through the EWOG thing now and see what we got. All right. Where we are. 4 contaminants detected above health guidelines. Okay. Let's see. Chlorate, right? Chromium, hexavalent chromium they found in this
There
area.
you go.
Super D. Again, that's why we have a whole house filtration as well as the Echo water system and showerhead filtration. Radiological contaminants, interesting, right? They're finding radiation in the water. And total trialomethanes, TTHMs. Wow. So, agricultural industry, treatment byproducts, runoff and sprawl, and some naturally occurring.
So I guess you'd have to ask yourself, I mean, if they say it's above health guidelines, I guess we'd need to get a little more clarification as to which health guidelines are we talking about.
Sure.
Because here's the thing. If you have hexavalent chromium above, government health guidelines, then why isn't somebody saying something about it?
Right. So here we go. They do comparisons when you click on each one. So the hexavalent chromium, they say it should be 0.2 parts per billion. And let's see, we have what? We have 0.03. So 0.01 part per billion more. So it's not extreme, but it's there. And let's see, the chlorate, harmful to the thyroid. Again, it should be 112.9. No, that's a national. We're higher there. It's very interesting, folks. If you go to this site and click on this, let's see, chromium's there. What was the radiological contaminants? Radium-226. Wow. Minerals and for mining, drinking water contaminated with radioactive substances. Again, this is why, folks, this remedy here, EMF detox, I take this, try to take it almost every day. Of course, it's for electromagnetic fields, but there are remedies in here. Don't tell anybody that actually address other forms of what we just talked about. Let's see, trihalomethanes. Click on that. Fascinating. Fascinating find. But yeah, very scary when you realize that most people aren't filtering their water at all on top of everything else that's coming in environmentally. All right. So do we have any more backstory on this next comment that I should know about?
Not really. I mean, we'll cover it here.
Yeah.
And maybe learn a thing or two.
Folks watching on the YouTube, by the way, there's a discussion of doing a green screen behind me. And in that case, of course, if we go high tech, we could have then we could put the Robert Scott Bell Show banner or do other things through the computer.
Oh, but come on, Robert. I mean, if you were going to go with a green screen,
yeah,
people don't use a green screen just to put a banner behind them. We'd have to put you like on the moon.
Well, when the thing is, we could
in a hurricane, or we could have alligators running behind you.
We could
or
thematically do that, though. The point is, the background could change depending on the story. That could be fun.
Oh, if you do a green screen, you have to give me remote access to what it is that's behind you.
It'd be very scary, but
that would be awesome.
It would be fun because it's like you picking out the music. It's always good. It's always good.
Oh, man.
All right. So what upcoming events? Let's hit some upcoming events here real quick.
All right.
As we all seeing. You can copy and paste this right into the people where people are watching on YouTube, right?
Well, they can't take links.
Oh, they don't take links? Okay.
They won't let you do links in the chat. No.
Okay. All right, here we go.
The Robert Scott Bell Show.
Well, I survived, I think, my first video simulcast of the Robert Scott Bell Show. A few folks out there checking it out. Again, I don't find it all that interesting to watch myself, but for whatever it's worth, Super Don, I'm going with what you're saying, and they think it's cool. You think it's cool. That's fine. We'll continue to evolve as we go. So if you have comments, suggestions through the video feed, let me know, and we'll see what we can do to respond. Upcoming events, though, we do sometimes live videos at those things through Periscope and Facebook Live. You can follow me on Twitter at RSBell Media. We've got the Florida Chiropractic Association is hosting an event August 24th through 27th, the Hyatt Regency Orlando. I'll be there broadcasting. Cancer Prevention Convention is coming up later this month, August 27th. We'll be broadcasting live. I'll be lecturing. And, man, what a lineup in one day. One day. Ty Bollinger and family, Doc Newsom, Doc of Detox. There's so many. I can't mention everybody. But, Stephanie, you are doing a great job putting this together. Looking forward to seeing all of our friends up in Michigan. Jeffrey Jackson will be there as well. Food is Medicine Curacao. We delay that till next year. I'm going to be going down next month just to check it out and show you some video things about the island so everybody will feel comfortable about going there, because I know there's people are nervous because it's close to Venezuela. I'm going to show you that. Truth About Cancer Live, October 5th, 6th, and 7th, Orlando, Florida. Sign up now. Get your tickets while they are still available. Hey, Seattle, the Pacific Northwest coming to see you. Seattle, Tacoma, Marlene's Market in Delhi, and that's Tacoma, Washington, October 11th, a Wednesday evening. We're going to do the show live from the Marlene's Market in Delhi, and then do a live lecture right after. So come on down and see us in Seattle. Then I'll be at the NPA Northwest, Portland, Oregon for Health Food Stores. That's on Friday the 13th. Oh, good. Friday the 13th lecture. That'll be fun, Super Don. Then we've got a couple of more conferences in October. So I'll leave it at that. Go into the show notes at robertscottbell.com, and you can find them there. And the finale comment of the day, Super Don. Whoa. This is coming from somebody named Alex.
Yes.
And it's a response to the article that I still haven't yet to read. I was waiting for Captain Morgan. No, yeah, I'm not. Well, Gen X, that's slacker generation. Gen Xers need to save the world from millennials. And again, I haven't read it yet. I'm waiting for Captain Morgan to go through it. But this guy, Alex, or it could be a girl, Alex, you didn't say. I say, he says, Gen Zs need to save the world from Gen Xers. Did he respond to me? Because I want to know why. I'm not arguing at this point until I know why.
Sounds like Alex is being a little snarky, but that's okay. We can take it.
You think they're snarky?
But I will say this, Robert. When I read this, I was like, "What the heck is a Gen Z? It sounds like a car, a motorcycle, Gen Z." I had no idea what it was, but as it goes, each generation has its own nickname.
Yeah.
And so Generation Z is anyone that was born after 1996. They call them Gen Z. They also call them iGen, like iPhone, right?
Okay.
The iGen, or Centennials.
Okay, so they're different than millennials.
Than the millennials. And see, we focus so much on the millennials. I had no idea what.
So my kids are Gen Z.
They are Gen Z. Okay. And first off, I don't know why Gen Z has a beef with the Gen Xers.
Yeah. We're your parents.
I'm not sure.
That's why.
Well, of course. Well, that might explain it.
Save the world from mom and dad. It used to be mom and dad save the world, but now it's.
I found an interesting article just to give you an idea of what the Generation Z is like.
Okay.
Apparently, they're less focused than the millennials. And this would have to has to do with. Yeah, believe it or not, because you figure Gen Z is just completely immersed in the technology and the immediate gratification of things like Snapchat and stuff like that.
Sure, I can see that.
Apparently, they're supposed to be better multitaskers than the millennials. They appear to not be as big on bargains like coupon clipping or anything like that.
Okay.
They're supposed to be more entrepreneurial, apparently.
I like that.
Than the millennials. And here's an interesting thing: they have higher expectations than millennials. When it doesn't get there that fast, they think that something's wrong. They expect businesses and brands and retailers to be loyal to them rather than being loyal to business and things like that. Interesting. I guess we need to learn more about Gen Z.
Well, I don't know. I'm just watching my kids and I'm learning every day. But
that's true. You got firsthand knowledge. Right?
I do.
My kids are millennials.
You're millennials. I got 2 Gen Zs in mind. So we'll ask them for a future show, and I'll ask Kat Morgan if she'll chime in on the Gen X versus millennials story. And I promise I'll read it before we do Freshman Friday tomorrow. What other surprises we got? There'll be surprises to all of us. Maybe I don't know if I'm going to do a video again till our Sunday broadcast. We'll see. I might need to take a break. It's going to be intense for me, folks. Thanks for being here. Whether you've listened or watched, the power to heal is yours.
Robert Scott Bell Show.
All right.
Attention business owners and independent contractors.
You're welcome. Have a good one.
All right.
folks on YouTube.
No problem.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching.
Thanks for watching, and give us some feedback because, again, first time of who knows how many. And
RobertScottBell.com. RobertScottBell.com. Go there, leave some comments, and let us know how we're doing or what we can do different.
All right. Thanks, guys. Power to Heal is yours. Remember that. Tell your friends, and we'll be back soon.